gotta keep tabs on Maxi. We've been talking about how
I started on League. I started with League when I was 9 years old. My cousin got me into that, actually. I've played it ever since. League always changes. I think if you play the game this much and it doesn't change, it gets boring. Like, it's just simple as that. I think earlier, when everything is fresh, it's really exciting to play a new champ you've never seen before and all this. Now, I really only play to compete. I think that's the most fun part right now. And I like that a lot.
He will get taken down. Maxi finds a double kill. They're going to close the game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading into our final game of the day. It's going to be BTXL versus Singularity. And look, I think realistically, if I'm going to just level with everybody, I would be unfair to say this is not going to be heavily XL favored. Like, I think this is going to be XL's game to lose realistically in this scenario. Singularity, I'm not seeing an avenue there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about BTXL and that they are not the perfect team yet. They have some issue, definitely overgrouping being the keyword that we've been discussing in the past. But then you take a look at Singularity and it's really hard finding some positives because they're just not clicked yet as a team. I feel like you see some aggression coming out from them, but you don't see the synergy building up towards them as a good team. They are more like 5 individual players running around on the map.
And I think when you kind of use this phrasing of like overgrouping, being predictable, slow to set up, the fact that you kind of know the play style that you're going to get with Excel, if you're a team that's facing Excel, I would say just draft for 5v5 team fight. A lot of the times when these academy teams are kind of funneled into this development program, they're going to be playing, again, paint by the numbers League of Legends, where it's like, I take the tower and then the dragon spawns and I set up for Drake and then I do my Herald swap and then I take the other. It's like, it's step by step, very basic. And so if you know that a team's going to be doing that maybe they're not the most advanced with some of the pressure games or playing the 1-3-1 or playing on an open map, just grab your Orianas, your Azirs, grab your scaling ADCs, group up and just be like, that's fine, Excel. You can have the lane phase. We'll meet you at the Drake and we'll just gamble like flipping coins on these 5v5s.
And you saying that is a great setup for success, but I don't necessarily see this happening with Singularity. Singularity like the 1v1s, they like their brawls, they like taking the fights. And honestly, the solo lanes from Singularity, especially the mid lane, I can't see Vrao going for the counter pick. I can see Vrao wanting to play the 1v1 with hat tricks. We talked about how much Taxa is not necessarily playing around hat tricks. It's generally hat tricks playing for his jungler to facilitate him and then go dive bot lane when they both hit level 6, which is generally the play that you can read over and over again from Excel and pretty much start setting up for. But if you sort of pressure hat tricks, this chain somehow breaks because it's not 4 links anymore, it's 3. And how does BTXL reply to only having 3 links to dive bot lane? Are they gonna do it? Are they gonna break their plan? And if they are they gonna be really quick to rethink what they wanna do in a game that on paper should be very easily won against them?
So then we can start like pulling out what the different steps would be to breaking that. If that's getting priority in mid lane and then having anti-dive, grabbing champions like Nautilus, great anti-dive champion, taps you once, you're CC locked, whatever. What's kind of like the next step then that you guys want to see from Singularity?
I mean, I'm looking towards them just owning their own team style here. Because honestly, you're saying that we want to have this team fight, heavy base, team composition where they're just chilling, not doing too much in laning phase. But honestly, the kind of people that are playing a Singularity are the people that wants to go all out on you. Like take Vrao for an example. The guy's been playing Yasuo, he's been playing LeBlanc, he's been playing this assassin who wants to take over the game by himself. And if you want to do that and you're playing against one of these teams that goes by the book, I think that if the normal playstyle doesn't work for you, own what works for you, which is just going all out. And that's not only Vrao, that's Takeset too. I just wish they were better at giving out the resources for people so they could actually share them as a team. Instead, I'm often seeing Singularity squad that goes all out on all fronts, and it's going to end up horrible because Excel's going to have the numbers advantage at one point, and they're just going to make a misstep.
I honestly agree. They need to just release their chaos. They're known to be a chaotic team, but they do have the individual skill in their players. So maybe draft comfort, draft like Frost said, anti-dive, comfort, and you should be good to take this 1v1s or maybe the 2v2s. You know, Scooter and Vrao, we've been asking to see them play together and they haven't yet. If they manage to get this together, I think Taxa and Hatrix might have a hard time responding to.
You guys are just playing like the bingo buzzwords. You got at like chaotic there. I'm looking for interesting. I'm looking for animal style. Like these are all just dancing away around points to be like a team is uncoordinated. A team isn't matching up. So put like a number. Put a number on it. If is this a 50-50? Is this a 60-40? Is this 70-30? Like what is Singularity chances here?
80-20.
Okay, that's
No,
brutal.
95-5.
Even more worse trouble.
I'll go 70-30.
Okay, you have the most faith.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I don't have complete faith. I might have the most, not complete.
I'm
the
saying
impression that I'm getting.
Go ahead. No, because I want to hear about the 5%.
No.
I want to listen to the 5%. Give me those.
No. The impression that I'm getting is, in order for Singularity to win, they have to drag XL down to their level, get right down in the mud, just like go crazy, just hope that you can abuse hat tricks in lane. But one thing I'll say about hat tricks, one thing that I'd say about hat tricks is he doesn't give up much. He might not be the most insane 1v1 mid laner out there, but he's dependable and he doesn't give up much. And so I think I just don't see Vrao abusing that. The only avenue I see is if Scoot pops off on a pick like Nidalee, which we know he's capable of doing. I think Tax is the weakest link on XL, and I think if Scoot can somehow out jungle, that's my avenue for 5% right there.
Tell you why, one thing, because I know the producer's like, break. One last thing. The one thing that can catch people off guard is the solo you play, is the fact that you're not expecting the jungle to wait 3 minutes into the same bush that you saw him 3 minutes ago. You're like, there's no way this guy's still camping there. But if he is, you end up losing other stuff on the map. So this is why I talked about chaos, because it can catch XL off guard, not believing in their eyes what they're seeing right now and having to respond to it straight away.
All right, so what you're telling me is, Scooter, get into the bottom lane brush and sit there for 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
That's the key. That's the key to winning there for Singularity, right? We're gonna go to a quick break. When we're back, we're diving into draft.
I feel like I'm in a dream, 'cause nothing is as it seems. I feel like I'm in a dream, but that's where I wanna be. And I feel free for the first time. And I feel free for the first time. For the first time. For the first time. For the first time. And I feel free for the first time. And I feel free for the first time. Give me a sign of something. I could really use it right now. Give me a sign of nothing. I'll be looking to the clouds. For the first time. For the first time. For the first time. And I feel free for the first time. And I feel free for the first time.
Final draft of the day is underway. Singularity versus XL. XL on blue side. Immediate Thresh ban. Team Singularity waiting to respond.
Yeah, we're just starting to see up some of the casual bans here. So Thresh coming in, Karma actually being taken away from Kasing too, so no Enchanted there, at least not the Karma so far. Lulu's still up and available if they're opting into that. Did we see Kasing on Thresh sometime too? I'm actually quite unsure on that, but never mind. Israel gone as well.
Okay, so obviously trying really hard to pinch the different bottom lanes. I think that this means that it's going to be a cluster priority because you have no problem giving away the Aphelios here. So Singularity, like, they're giving XL either the Varus or the Callisto. They're getting one of those champions.
I mean, if you're giving them if you take away the Varus here and you force them to Callisto, you could theoretically go with the Twisted Faith and try to go for a lockdown composition instead. But that is what I usually think of when I think Singularity. So this is going to be interesting coming into what their third blue side ban is going to be. Aphelios is actually taken away by red side.
And
or blue
honestly,
side.
you take away the Twisted Fate, you just pretty much know they're gonna go Galio. Now, I don't know how that matches up well against something like a Yasuo that Rao has showed before. You can actually punish it with like sort of a Gragas Yasuo composition at level 6 and take him completely out of the game. But
Okay.
Actually,
Fate is open.
I have a question to you guys. Do Singularity play Twisted Fate?
I haven't really seen Rao on it. Yeah, I think you are way more experienced in Rao than I am, Tropo. So yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, okay.
Because if you know
Like his
that
mages.
if you know that the enemy mid laner doesn't play TF, then you can put priority on the Callista here and then know that you're going to get it second rotation anyway from blue side because there's no way that they'll deny it, because if they deny it, they'd be on an uncomfortable pick. I find Volibear very interesting for such high priority.
Yeah, what I find interesting is if you've gone with this AD carry ban strategy and then you end up picking Volibear, that's what strikes me as odd. Now look,
It's going to be the Senna bot lane, isn't it?
It could very well
the
be.
Senna Wukong? No, Senna bot.
It's not something we've seen from Singularity either, and I don't think Texa is really... Okay, now that's someone's signature champion, but we did see in Italy today, and we did also see how quickly that pick can be hiked up in pick and ban, and how Resident Sleeper it can become once we get in game.
It's the
But
3-minute camp
excusably,
that Excalibur
excusably.
said. It's the
Excusably.
3-minute camp, dude. Okay, I get you now. Ooh.
Okay, so you have really good threat under tower with just these two picks. If there's ever a situation where Singularity have Excel underneath a structure when you're throwing Nidalee Spears and Volley, it's really good. I also really love when Ashe breaks from lane phase because she can walk up into mid lane and throw arrow from Fog of War and try to catch the enemy mid laner and then immediately break that. So she can actually open up a map very, very quickly, which is why I like the defensive response here from Deadly to opt into the Xayah and the Rakan, knowing that there's big pieces of CC on that Ashe.
And there's been one piece of word going around of Kasing not roaming around with his jungler, not willing to step away from his lane to try and play that jungle support duo towards the mid lane, get some vision into the enemy jungle, invade. He did that in the previous game with specifically the Rakan, and this is something that I instantly noticed about Kasing. I'm like, this is not the Kasing we know. He's actually playing for his jungler. Yet another person playing for his jungler in this BTXL lineup, and he did it with the Rakan. I'm really liking seeing him on the same pick again, and I really want to see him roaming.
What I would say is about everything that I know about Kasing, his best performing champions are engage champions with agency. That is where we see Kasing play best. Thresh being one of them, and we've seen the Rakan Xayah lane from Deadly and Kasing before, and they absolutely smurfed it. So this is definitely a lane that is strong. And remember, most people look to Deadly as the carry for XL. Like, it is the Deadly show when you're playing XL.
I wanted to quickly touch on the Braum pick. I actually like it in this composition just because it empowers Nidalee to have some CC and gank options down there, especially, again, after Ashe's post level 6. I think at this point, because you're probably going to be blind picking your top laner, you ban and sculpt the top lane matchup how you want, so getting rid of big champions like Wukong. Maybe you take away 2 bruisers, and you grab something like the Renekton as like the 3rd bruiser, or maybe you go and blind pick something like an Ornn or a traditional tank.
Reason why I like this too, and I do like the Braum pick, but it's also because the tech set had been one of these AD carry who we've seen him dive on the tower and die. Now we see him on an AD carry like Ashe, who wants to get out of lane, who's just chilling in the laning phase with this Braum, and you're actually seeing as an AD carry that's a bit more selfless than Takes It has been on other AD carries, for example. So, they are red side. We might be looking into a blind pick top side here where we can get the mid lane counter pick. If we get that, we're actually looking at a Singularity with comfort pick in the jungle, with counter pick for mid lane for Rao, and Takes It who's contained in an Ashe instead, which is exactly what we wanted from them. So this is actually looking good so far for them.
Yeah, because the question was if they were going to take the tank top laner or take like a Renekton and then mix your damage profile. So you have AP from Nidalee, AD from Renekton. Technically still a flex. So
Solo lane Lucian.
The mid and the top lane. And Goldberg, you brought this up previously. The fact is that if you pick a GP now, which has slipped through the draft phase, you're also dissuading that. So I think this is pretty big brain from Singularity to say like, okay, we dare you now. Pick the GP and you're probably going to be dealing with Lucian no matter what.
And this is the thing right here. We talked about them picking individually strong champions in their lanes. Okay. And they go ahead and pick the Lucian. Lucian, who had a buff in his Q range from 900 to 1,000, can punish top lanes, but can very easily punish mid lane or mages right now. So it could be a flex between the top lane and the mid lane. And if this Galio gets locked in, it's very BTXL style.
I'd honestly rather see Rao get, if this Galio gets logged in, I'd honestly rather see him get the Lucian here, get a better matchup against the Malphite. Okay, it's actually AD against AD. Theory behind the Galio was that he could keep him pushed in, keep the pressure up so he wouldn't be able to roam as quickly as we've seen Hatrix and Taxa do so often. Now, this is interesting, though, because we've been talking a lot about the 2v2 between Hatrix and Taxa against the enemy team. But Volibear and Corki, not really the 2v2 you're having in mind when we're thinking about it here. And Shen being hammered here. He's 10 elo in solo queue. I would love to see this pick here, too, but no, we're going to see a
That's Lucian top lane, then. It has to be.
I think
Frau is like one of the biggest Vladimir players that I know. This is kind of like Aaron on the Azir and then swapping it up and giving it to Weisel.
I mean, it's nice to take an AP top laner into Malphite because then he can't maximize building the armor and then getting the added armor or damage out of his kit. So I think that's why he's opting to take the Vladimir, even if it is like a signature pick for Rao. Looking at these compositions, like the first thing that I really want to point out is that you have an Oceanic player who's the coach of the Excel team, and that exact composition has been run so many times by Swiffer's previous team, like minus the Volibear. This sounds really practiced, very coached, and a very set play for what this team's about to do.
I actually like that we see the Vladimir towards the top side, especially when you have a Corki who likes to roam with as soon as he gets the package. Last time we saw Vladimir was against the TF, and he completely nullified that TF. I think it's fine that you set the Vladimir top side so you nullify any potential roam towards that, especially because you're not playing against hybrid damage, you're playing against double armor from the jungle and the top laner. And then you kind of force them to go down towards the Ashe and the Braum. With the right setup, you can actually hinder that gank.
I actually, from what I know, this is an awful matchup for Stende, so I don't feel bad for. I do feel bad for him. He's going to have a bit of a rough laning phase, but I'm very, very excited to see this because Singularity. I do think Singularity needed to pull out something interesting to hit that 5%. Well, they're definitely starting off in the right percentage category right here. I think.
Wait, your 5%?
It's my 5%. My 5%. You guys, it's Trouble's 30 and it's Gilborg's 20. My 5%. Right. We are jumping into game, ladies and gentlemen. Let's throw it over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Excandrel. Hello and welcome back to our fourth and final game of the day here at the Northern League Championship. It is going to be BTXL taking on Team Singularity. Now, Orcs, talk to me a little bit about these teams, because obviously when we look at BTXL, you just think of one lane, and that is bot lane. But let's talk about Singularity. Where's our focus in this game?
Well, I think in particularly with the draft, but even in general, I think it's got to be the mid lane. Typically, you see Rao looking to really challenge the enemy mid lane. And I think that's where the weakness is for BTXL. Not specifically with Hatrix, but more from the fact that Taxa doesn't really pair up as well with Hatrix in the mid jungle. We've seen Hatrix lean down towards bot lane on Galio. We saw him enable the team with the package plays, but usually we don't see them put too much focus into the mid lane unless there's an opportunistic chance to go for it. So I think potentially Rao on this Lucian could really look to challenge in the mid lane, and then that pressure can set up the rest of the game. It's definitely XL favored, but I like to see that they're putting a lot of eggs in the Vrao basket.
All right, we had a brief pause, so hopefully it won't be too long until we can get into our final game. Question for me is very much, like you said, you were kind of hitting on like the Taxa hat-trick synergy. Obviously, rotating your kind of mid-jungle into the bot lane is how BTXL play the game. Hat-tricks we've seen has maybe not been able to do that quite as effective as Special did in previous seasons. But one of the champions he did do that well on was the Corki when he was enabled by the package. Every time he got that package, he roamed down bot lane, slapped it down and got a kill for Deadly, or got some kind of advantage, bar maybe one time where they threw it down mid lane and Taxa was playing in his pocket. So I do want to see more from Taxa and hat-tricks as a duo if they know how XL like to play. So that's kind of my focus going into this game, is hat-tricks in the mid.
Well, yeah, and I think it should be. I think you should lean towards this Corki to give him some support, because Lucian is not going to be a fun matchup. He's going to trade heavily into you. Lucian just got some buffs on the current patch. His piercing light, his Q has got a bit more range, so even more threat in that matchup. So I just want to be a little bit cautious about leaving hat-tricks alone, because if he doesn't find that priority, then maybe when he gets the package, he doesn't really have the space afforded to make a play around that.
All right, let's have a little round out. As soon as we talked about every lane, let's talk about this top lane. Flaxfish versus Sendo. Now, they talked about this is a pretty rough matchup here. Is Sendo just an ult bot at this point?
I mean, it's not just like the fact that he's an ult bot, because he's still going to be a tanky in team fights. It's just a laning matchup. Malphite just doesn't have the damage to really do anything to a Vladimir. Vladimir just out-sustains him. And then typically, what you see Malphite excelling at is stacking armor and reducing attack speed. So that's why they picked it for the Lucian. It essentially forced the Lucian mid, because you don't want to play Lucian into the Malphite. He becomes too tanky for you to really do anything. And whenever he does get in range of you, when he slows your attack speed, it really hurts as an AD carry. But by forcing the Lucian into the mid lane and picking the Malphite, it opens you up for an AP counter pick, and Vlad works so well because you out-sustain the damage, and the pool can just be used to avoid the Malphite ult. So Malphite's still going to find value in this game. I think particularly I'm looking at Takesat on the Ashe. That is not going to be a fun time when you're being dived by Rakans and packages and Malphite ult, but it's not going to have success in the top lane. And essentially for Vlad, he's a champion who's similar to like a Kassadin, has a bit of a rough time early because his Q is on such a long cooldown to sustain and shove. But once he gets past that level 9, level 10 point where he gets his Q maxed, he gets the CDR from Transcendence, and he's got a couple of CDR items, he really starts to be relevant in the side lane. And the thing is, you would hope to punish him before that, and Malphite just won't do that.
Alrighty, well, the minions are in the lanes. The teams have taken up. You can see, but both Scoot and Taxa are starting up on the top side of the map. We're mirroring each other down. Deadly and Kasing actually look to try and get some early prior in this lane. Obviously, Kasing's pretty hard to lock down on the Rakan, very slippery early. So even if only can find that Winter's Bite, it's only really going to be damage. Nothing really to speak of on that front.
And that's traditionally, we haven't seen much of Rakan and Braum recently. These two have kind of slid a little bit away from the meta, but back when they were a lot more relevant, and Braum particularly was a really high priority pick, you used to see Rakan picked into the Braum simply because you never really get the chance to build up this passive and proc it, because if you do land that auto attack or that Winter's Bite, he's usually dashed away before you can really follow up with the auto attacks to proc the passive. So essentially it serves a lot of purpose here, which is why it was a bit interesting seeing the Braum come out into this, but it does mean there's an element of safety against the Xayah. You can block the feathers, and I think that's the thing with the matchup. The Braum is very good into Xayah, not so good into the Rakan though.
Taxa's almost done a full clear of his jungle. Wasn't actually spotted out by the Hawk shot from Takesat. He tried to see where he was, but at least they know that red buff's down, so they can maybe with a bit of creative thinking can figure out roughly where Taxa is on the map at the moment. Looks like Scoot is going to hop over and look to try and contest this crab. Actually may just go for a steal. The ward's been placed down, so they know it's going on, but actually Taxa may spot Scoot out now. Taxa's waiting in the bush. Scoot's actually been spotted here. Kasing has those concussive blow stacks actually connecting onto him. He has to flash away as Taxa gets onto Scoot. Scoot's stunned up momentarily and is able to jump away. The spear does connect in to the jump forward. Taxa has to flash away. Vrao goes underneath the tower and finds himself first blood. Easy as. XL do look to turn it around though. They find a kill onto Vrao. Hat-tricks didn't roam there, so he'll get some free time in the lane.
Yeah, ended up being a little bit sloppy at the end there. Vrao Not getting the auto attack down onto Taxa to follow up with the ignite, and then flashing on the tower. I think his pathing got messed up by the minions a little bit. It's still nice for him to get that early kill, and the trade-off is Kasing got it, who obviously isn't too impactful, but this is the thing we typically see. Vrao challenging hat-tricks in the mid lane, finding priority, and then moving that pressure down bot. And this is highlighting XL's issue, is that they don't set up hat-tricks to do this in return. And obviously, in fairness, it is a Corki, so you're going to struggle to allow that early. But it's just showing that when Vrao can look to pressure hat-tricks, they're not going to have that mid laner who can assist the rest of the team in these skirmishes. It was a 4v3, and as much as XL did trade okay into it, we could potentially see that consistently happening until hat-tricks gets his package.
Yeah, we saw Scoot actually was able to move in, steal the Raptors, and get out. Kasing just goes for a light trade. Takes that though. Is actually doing a pretty good job just to turn that around.
It's actually pretty rough at times for the Xayah because Ash can just outrange you, and just essentially because of the slow and auto attacks, you can kite around your feathers and apply damage.
Blackfish might just have kill here. That's the Empowered Transfusion. Sendo has to flash away, but that was just free for Flaxfish. What was Sendo doing so forward in the lane?
Sendo was trying to shove the wave in. He wanted it to crash as soon as possible, and he greeted and he traded his life for the ability to shove the wave in. And the end result was a very easy punish from Flaxish. He had no HP, no mana, and the upside is that Sendo does get to get his reset off. So in all honesty, I don't think it's actually that bad of a trade. As much as it looks a bit rough him losing his flash, at level 6, Sendo has his ultimate, which can function essentially as an escape. And the critical thing is you got the wave in. If the wave didn't get crashed, it could have been really bad, especially when Scoot was on the top side. So as much as it does look a bit funny, it looks a bit unfortunate, I think it definitely could be worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Sendo does make it back to lane. He's got the Catalyst now, so it's a bit more health and mana to play with.
Nice thing too is that because you're playing into obviously an AP top lane and AP jungle, you can itemize that magic resist early. If you do go for a lot of magic resist and there's, say, an AD jungler who can be a lot of a threat to you, that's where it can be a bit concerning, but he can essentially fully optimize magic resist early and then only pick up the armor when he's wanting to really join the fights and be that front line.
Only going for a bit of a deep warding mission here. Has obviously got the backup of Scoot in his back pocket. And eyes for me in this game are on Scoot. He's had, I'd say, some questionable games so far here in the Northern League Championship.
I would agree. I think that's a fair assessment.
So I really want to see him kind of bounce back. He's consistently been getting what we would know as Scoot champions. Hasn't really been able to get too much from it. You do see a light trade here in the bot lane.
And that's the strength of the Braum. When the feathers are going to start getting set up and just instantly cancel. Flaxish still in trouble here.
Yeah, Flaxish does have that blood pool available to him. He uses the Hemo play to try and get some sustain underneath the tower. He's going to use the blood puddle now. Actually, he gets slowed up underneath the tower. Sendo just looks to continue to run him down. May just find himself a solo kill here. Tax is not even close. Sendo gets a solo kill in our I quote, rough matchup as Scoot continues to have a rough go of it. Getting chunked out by the dragon here.
And actually, honestly, that was technically the right play for Flaxish, because if he did try and run away, he was dead. There's no way you get out of that. Better to try and kill Sendo, and he ends up killing you, because obviously in that situation where Flaxish is waiting for cooldowns and you're also taking a tower hit, it is going to favor Sendo. But if he walks up to Taxa, he ends up giving them assist gold. So as much as, again, you don't really want to be dying in this matchup, that was a situation where the wave was in a bad spot. Scoot was on the other side of the map. You disrespected the jungle. That was the mistake there from Flaxish. And the next best thing was to go, okay, I'm definitely dead here. I'm going to deny assist gold. So a nice thing for XL to have happened, but the trade-off was that Scoot was able to pick up the dragon on the bot side.
BTXL do get Prio in the lane, though, finally. And look to shove out and clear out some of this vision down along the river. We've got 8 minutes on the clock now, so the Rift Herald has spawned up. Package not quite available to hat tricks yet.
We haven't really seen this mid lane matchup go too well. There was that early priority that led into a kill for Vrao, but since then he hasn't really found much headway, and I think the TP from Hattrick's getting more value, and he's managed to pull out a CS lead, which just shouldn't be happening. And this is sort of what we were talking about a little bit on the desk, how stylistically Vrao matches up well into what XL struggle with, which is securing an advantage for their mid laner so he can rotate. But in terms of the actual skill of the players, BTXL just pound for pound does come out ahead. And I think that's what we're seeing here. As much as I like the idea of Rao applying that pressure, if he's unable to do so, then things do kind of start to flop.
They didn't spot Taxer out with that Hawk shot. They were worried that maybe he was sneaking away the Rift Herald. Fortunately, he wasn't. Taxer did just walk over a ward and... Okay, he's just not... He wasn't looking at his screen, unfortunately. So that ward will actually remain up. Pretty high value here. Singularity have a rough idea where Taxer is now after spotting him out.
They should know absolutely where he is, that he's pat down.
Yeah, they do now.
Yeah, I'll throw that. They see the package, and this is what we're talking about. Hat tricks on the Corki. You're enabled on those package timers. But something we mentioned was how predictable XL are with those bot lane dives. The package makes them even more so. You hear a fog horn and some barking dog noises when he picks it up. There's no way Singularity should be dying to these package roams. And sure, is that going to give up some pressure? Absolutely. But if you don't die, which they didn't, Hatrix's package is now timed out, and it means you can continue to apply pressure in the bot lane. But BTXL have moved up towards this Herald. Have to see if they'll be able to take it without contestation. Vrao is going to spot him out.
Yeah, maybe Sendo needs to roam down. He has got that lane kind of shoved in at the moment. Because Thing actually pops the quickness and looks to try and catch Scoot out. As it looks like this will just be that Rift Herald getting picked up. Flaxish zoning Sendo away a little bit. Singularity, unfortunately for them, they do not get this Rift Herald. So it's a good rotation there by Thing to come up and make sure that it was guaranteed. Bot lane was in a perfectly fine spot. So it wasn't like Deadly was under any real threat. He's got Flash Cleanse and a Feather Storm available. So even if he had hung around the lane, it still would have been pretty hard to find anything.
Yeah, definitely would. And I mean, just in honesty, I think this is only 35 missing a trick. You often see XL go for this, where they'll rotate Kasing up for the Herald and they'll leave Deadly bot lane. It's a very common move with theirs. Sometimes we see teams rotate their entire bot lane, but typically for XL, it's the support roams, the AD carry stays for the solo XP, and only 35 simply didn't match. I mean, I think it would have been hard for them to swap the entire bot lane. You would obviously need priority to do that, but only 35 should have been clued up on this, should have been rotating up so he could have been there to assist his team, and then maybe the contest could have come out. But ultimately, BTXL get the Herald, Vrao loses his flash as well. There, he has put a lot of damage on Hatrix here.
Yeah, Hatrix actually ignited, burning down. The Ash Arrow is going to go in. Taxa actually jumps away with the ulti. This does afford Singularity some prio in the mid lane, and this is what we normally see from Vrao. He looks to take over lane and then rotate that outside of the lane, like he did to get that first blood. Unfortunately, the rest of his team kind of got caught out, so he also had to back off of the rest of them. Meanwhile, Sendo continuing to 1v1 Flaxish here. Sendo still has Flash, doesn't have the Onslaught available to him. Flaxish is just going to heal back up momentarily.
Yeah, and this is where the problem is the extended fights. So Vladimir just wins. Sendo finding an ult in that situation. The ult is the big thing. If you get a good ult off onto Flaxish and you can blow him up before he pulls, or if you catch him on a tower, I think that's what happened there. You ulted him and he caught a tower hit. That's when you can threaten the 1v1 matchup. And by all means, this is a Vladimir flavored matchup. If the players are playing at an equal skill level, Vladimir should absolutely win. But that doesn't mean that there aren't windows for Sendo to punish if Flaxish gets a bit overzealous, which I think he did there.
Thing jumps in. Deadly just gets a light amount of damage out, and now they're looking to chase. Deadly has that ultimate available to him, pulls back the feathers, gets caught out for the moment. The spear does connect as he has to use that Feather Storm, but Scoot gets charmed up, locked down underneath the tower as the Sky Splitter gets used. Only is so low, but down goes Sendo. In comes the rest of Singularity, and a great teleport turnaround here for them. The health bars were just exceptionally low, but there was no damage to punish up anymore. And BTXL get punished, and this will be the Dragon for Singularity, the second one in the game.
I mean, all I'm going to say is that when I see a 15% HP Malphite with no ultimate TP bot lane, with no armor to speak of, and there's an Ashe and a Lucian hanging about, unsurprising it doesn't go well. Not really sure what the plan was there from BTXL. Ultimately, we saw Deadly and Kasing get punished. We talked about the tools Deadly have, and I think it's something we saw in the previous game from the Ezreal. Ezreal has a lot of safety, so it allows you to play more aggressive, and that's where you get punished. And I think Deadly was in a similar mindset. He's like, oh, look at all these tools I have to keep me safe, thus I can step forwards. But they answer the slows are something that you'll struggle to cleanse, and they're able to punish.
I really like this. He actually saw Takestep was going bot side, as he was a little worried about getting caught out. Deadly's not gonna. Oh, Deadly is just about in plate range. That was pretty close.
Well, the way it is now is they've made it so even if you walk out of plate range, you still get gold if you've been in range. It's a critical thing. And the reason they made that change was essentially because what happened is supports would get the tower down low and then they'd walk out of range just as the plates were taken. So now they've made it, if you're contributing to the tower, then there's like a cooldown before the gold sort of doesn't get transferred to you. And that's why you see situations like that. Deadly was taking the tower, he then walks away. And the end result is it means that he still does get the gold despite being out of range. It's actually a
Only
nice...
35 were actually very slow to that play. And actually, it looks like XL may be looking for something here. Only does catch them out. They do get the knock up onto the Braum. The feathers get pulled back and only the standard side is able to just to get himself into a safe distance.
Not quite the target you want to be going for is the Braum there, especially as he already has a chain vest. But this is actually a super nice play from Singularity, something I should highlight.
He's healing up a fair amount though with that pot. It looks like he's going to be able to get out.
But this is something I want to highlight, which is really nice, is that having the Lucian Vladimir means that you can swap. You can force onto the Malphite a matchup into the Lucian with the Blade of the Ruined King. And if you look at his items, he's only built Magic Resist. Obviously, he built that because he was up against Vladimir and there was a Nidalee jungle. I'm not saying it's the wrong call. It's absolutely right. But then Singularity very quickly switched the lane assignments around. And now Malphite is getting bullied by a Blade of the Ruined King Lucian. Really rough for him to be up against. And at this point of the game, when Vladimir is level 10, he's got the Transcendence cooldown reduction, he's maxed out his Transfusion, he's very comfortable at just sustaining up any harass from the Corki, and he can kind of just clear out the waves without too much issue. So a nice swap to come in at this timing, and Singularity putting pressure on solo laners.
Good interrupt there by Sing. They have to use that Feather Storm because Sing's able to get out, and Singularity actually used both of their bot lane ultimates in trade for the Feather Storm from Deadly. Cleanse was just about not up, but he will have it next time.
But you got to remember, a critical thing is that one of the reasons Xayah got pushed out the meta is, well, one of the nerfs they did, it wasn't the only reason she was pushed out the meta, but one of the nerfs they did was a nerf to the cooldown on her ultimate. And it actually is really significant now. If you look, you can see the Ashe ultimate is going to come up a lot sooner. So trading those summoners, you're pretty happy to do. And it creates a window when Deadly is unsafe. And you may say, well, sure, but Deadly still has Cleanse. But the thing is, against an Ashe Braum, Cleanse isn't always a good escape. If they fire an arrow from long distance, sure, Cleanse is great. If they're auto-attacking you and you're getting slowed consistently by every auto-attack from the Ashe, Cleanse isn't going to do anything. But package coming in.
Look, if it takes it, he's got a lot of damage to work with here. Forces takes that heal out. Scoot actually now looking to close in. There is still another Valkyrie available to Hatrix, and he went for the play, dropped the package, didn't really get too much out of it, but BTXL are going to get control of the Rift Herald area. And Tax has already started it up, so Baron Pit in their favor. Deadly's moving over.
Yeah, that's actually important because this is a little bit different from what we typically see, where we see the package being used by Hatrix to set up, you know, a big fight or potentially roam down bot, but it serves the same purpose. They force the summoners from take set, they zone the team away, and allows them to set up for Herald. So ultimately, it is still finding the play for BTXL, and it is what we've seen Hatrix do on the package. They play heavily around those package timers, and although they get the Herald, which is nice, they now don't have the package available for this dragon spawning in 40 seconds.
Only gets himself stunned up by the Thundering Smashes. Arrow goes wide. Vrao is on the flank, gets jumped into, and Hatrix is just going to punch for the damage down the charms there, and Taxa finds the kill. Not sure what Vrao was doing there. It's a little bit questionable.
So if we sort of have a tier list, and on one end there's like flanking Malphites and Wukongs, and on the other end there's a flanking Soraka. It's not quite flanking Soraka, but the Lucian running into 4 people was pretty bad, I'll say that. And now you see BTXL willing to punish this turret and just move straight over to that dragon and capitalize on it. A little bit sloppy there from Singularity, and they will get some pressure top lane from Flaxish, but ultimately handing over the mid tower and that dragon a pretty big hit, especially as they've already got 2 under the pocket. A 3rd dragon would have been huge.
I think Flaxish should at least get this tower. He had a fairly big wave built up with him.
Yeah, especially with Nidalee
there as well. Yeah, that's pretty much gone. Especially with wave crashing as well afterwards. So Flaxish will get that tower. XL at least answer out and get their first Drake of the game. Is a Mountain Drake. And if they can get 4 Drakes back to back and get Soul, first of all, this game's gone on for a very long time. But also that is a lot of bonus resistances over to the likes of Hatrix, who kind of, now with his Mana and his Triforce, every item is a pretty big spike for him from this point onwards.
I mean, I think a big thing is that mountain dragons have gone up in value since Death's Dance has become a thing, since it now offers resistances, because typically marksmen don't have much resistances, because obviously, I mean, you maybe get a GA or a Hex Drinker, but now that Death's Dance is such a core item for so many champions, it actually puts a lot more value into the mountain resistance bonus you get from the individual dragons. Now, we don't have too many of the Death Dance abusers here, but speaking of abuse...
Hatrix is half health. Scoot jumps in, and down he goes. Taxa will turn this around by killing Scoot. Sendo teleports in. Flaxish does have that blood pool available to him, so Sendo not going to be able to kill him.
I like how Sendo's running over as if he's going to do anything. It's like, you can't ult him. He's got pool. He's just walking at him aggressively. Angry walking.
He's sending a message.
A nice play, honestly, from Singularity. Yes, it's a 1-for-1, but they burn the flash of Hatrix, which is pretty valuable when it's a Corki, and also they force the TP out of Sendo, so a little bit of an advantage there, and it means if they do use Sendo to match Flaxish, they're going to have an issue when he's not able to rotate. Now, they do have Corki with TP, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem, but typically, they've had him just grouped around with the team.
Interesting smite coming out there from Taxa, very early, but was at least able to steal that Raptors away. Bot lane turret remains very low, so it looks like Vral's actually getting jumped onto. Sky Split is enough to secure the kill as Taxa now has to try and make his way out. Deadly does have to deal though with Flaxish. Can he get over the wall? Flashes over, but Flaxish wants to come in for a little bit more. Kasting trying to chase, and Flaxish is just popping people right now. Kasting's forced a flash as well, and Singularity just turned that on its head, finding themselves 2 members while they only lose Vral.
And normally we see a lot of time being passed before we see the TP advantage being utilized. Didn't take long for Singularity. They wait for a pick to come out from BTXL, and they instantly look to punish with Flaxish coming in. He is monstrously strong right now in this Vladimir with the Rabadons already. They're just going to start the Baron. Taxit is nowhere near. Sendo's going to try and play Interruption, though.
Yeah, he can be a bit of a nuisance here. Hatrix has the teleport. It's half health onto Baron, and XL are looking to fight. He's got the package. This is do or die for XL. Exhaust instantly used. The ultimate lands onto 2 members. Baron secure, but Hatrix is just mopping Singularity up over the wall. Flaxish trying to put the damage into Sendo, but Kasting comes in with the shields, comes in with the heals. Hatrix finds a triple kill, and Singularity are just sent running back to their base.
Yeah, and I mean, they get the Baron, so that's something, but you lose so much, and Hatrix already at the highest farm in the game, now 3-1 and 2. He had the Triforce and the Manamune fully stacked there. He's going to have a ton of gold in his pocket now as well. Just a little bit overzealous, I feel, for Singularity. I'm not sure I'd call that necessarily worth it.
I mean, I guess you denied XL from picking up the Baron, but they only got that off a team fight. Anyway, I actually have to admit that package was really, really nice.
I mean, it's the power of the current form package is that it guarantees damage onto people. Perhaps you can take Sendo here.
The flow from the Stormbreaker is enough. But the package got Hatrix over the pit, so he had that line of burn, but also was in a safe zone where he was shooting over the wall.
That, it stopped anyone from Singularity escaping, because you have champions like the Lucian, you have champions like, well, I mean, Lucian was dead there, but you have champions like the Braum and the Nidalee who can dash over the wall. That was no option because they'd just be dashing into the Corki, who was so strong there. We
can see it again.
A replay here, so you can see dashes over and he waits out the exhaust. Ult comes in from the Malphite, follows up, and the burn applies to both those members. They just get annihilated. And then Flaxish does his best to try and clear up Sendo, but the CC comes in and he does go down. So really nice execution. And I think the big thing there was the patience from Hatrix. He knew they weren't going to get the Baron. And he was like, well, it's fine. Our jungler's not here. They get the Baron. But he was convinced that they take the fight, and they absolutely did. And he's the one who got rewarded with all those kills. And you see he's going towards that Death Dance as his 3rd item. So we're talking about the extra resistances from those mountain dragons. They are going to come in handy for him.
Yeah, look how much damage he's already able to do. The arrow does land onto Kasting, and that's one dead bird, dude. Sendo has found out Flaxish here, and he's already pretty low, so Sendo has to be pretty careful. The Scoot actually
stole away.
Secure the crab.
And this Malphite ult, yet they've just won this. They've cleared them off. Malphite ult's been used. Rakan's down without ultimate. They can just take this dragon, and you can see the response from Deadly and Hatrix is pushing mid-wave and then rotate upwards. It is a good response, but very clear that they've given up on this dragon, and this is now going to be soul point for Singularity. It's important that XL got that one earlier, otherwise it would be soul, but still, nice play there. And I think something to say is that Kasing opted for the Ignite this game. We often see Rakans go cleanse when you're up against so much CC. Oh, the shield!
Sendo almost getting out. He doesn't have the ultimate. He is going to fall. We'll see who gets the kill. It looks like Vrao should be the one they're gifting it over to, although Sendo doing his best to be a nuisance. Scoot slides in and just secures it with a quick chomp.
He nearly got away with a shield there, because when you're recalling, damage on your shield doesn't actually stop the recall, so it's close.
Wait, Flaxish is doing crazy damage. Hemo Plague should heal Flaxish up, though. He has to use his ultimate now. Members are coming in on both fronts. Hatrix being very, very careful. Cheeky flash forward.
Stopwatch.
Hatrix dabs on him with a stopwatch, though, and he's able to survive.
Really nicely played, and it's just Singularity punishing some mistakes from XL. They're up in gold, so looking in a good spot. They have the threat of this Vladimir in the later stages of the game, and I will say, sure, the Corki going to be high value in the later stages. You've seen that already, but I don't think this is very clear-cut going into the late game, especially with the Flaxish being as strong as he is, level 15.
Yeah, Vladimir scales very well. Obviously, so does Corki, but it's kind of hard to actually call the scaling in this game. You can see the gold difference right now. Singularity have taken over 2,000 gold ahead roughly here. Deadly actually instantly goes in for the cleanse. They do look to turn this around though onto Only. Only going to get melted through as Kasing's the one to secure the kill. Sendo's coming forward. He does have his ultimate available to him. I believe he actually whipped that a little bit. Vrao's going to turn it onto Tax for Sendo, also just getting melted through. Kasing gets a free-man knock-up just to disengage. They pull back the feathers, get the root, but in comes the Hemo Plague. The package gets dropped. Hatrix now joins into the fray. He's getting melted through, and Vrao secures the kill. XL are just throwing this game out the window. Singularity with a solid team fight.
And the Corki's just not enough. He has the package, he has the scaling in his side, but he can't deal with this beautiful play coming out from Singularity. Takes that just untouched in that fight and consistently putting down the damage and the slows. Then Flaxish, as soon as he joins these fights, the tone completely changes. You can see how aggressive XL were feeling, and then as soon as the Vlad turns up, they know this is not a fight they're going to win.
Flaxish now getting some free time in the bot lane. Sendo completely lost that fight, by the way. His ultimate was...
Both of the frontliners in general of BTXL, because Sendo missed the ult, and Taxa ran in and then fail flashed over the wall. Bear in mind, Taxa is 3 levels down on Scood, and he's behind 2 levels down on Takeset, 4 levels down on Vrao. He's essentially a support in this game. He is literally a support, and so when he runs at double Blade of the Rune King 80 carries, it's no surprise he's going to get shredded. And you can see that
the fight
here.
Again.
He fails to flash after getting shredded. The Malphite ult is a flop. And then Kasing does a good job to try and mitigate, but they can just keep moving forwards. Takeset, he has the slows on the Ashe. He's consistently applying them and the damage. And the package nearly is enough, but they quickly converge on the Hatrix. And the big thing there was that Hatrix was late to the fight. If Hatrix was there sooner, maybe you could have seen a situation where XL could have turned it around. But it was the front line of XL being very disjointed from the back line.
Sad thing about that replay is actually we missed the Sendo whiff, unfortunately, so you don't get to see what went wrong there.
We'll flip it later, and you can just replay it endlessly again and again.
Force him to relive it. Because both Takeset and Vrao were standing on top of each other. Like, if he had landed that ultimate, that would have been an entirely different fight. Now, XL feeling a little panicked here. Actually going to try and start up this Baron, but they get spotted out. There's so much vision available to Singularity with the blue trinkets and obviously the Hawk shot. And he just walks face first into Scoot's spear. And
remember, he doesn't have Death Stance yet. He doesn't have the Death Stance. So, I mean, he will have healing in his runes, but that poke is going to be relevant when it lands him before an objective. You can see here just a lifeline getting heal up. And the arrow nearly hit him. A lot of confidence from Deadly because he had no cleanse. Obviously, the Featherstorm's there, but that only works if you use it before the arrow hits you. Right now, 40 seconds on that Mountain Dragon. Both teams trying to group towards it. Be huge for Singularity if they can grab it, really solidifying their advantage in this game with a 3k gold lead. Ultimately, the thing I want to see here is synergy between Sendo and the rest of the team. I want the front line to land an engage where everyone else can follow up, And that's what will really be the driving force of BTXL. If the fight becomes scattered and spread, and they can't isolate the backline of Singularity, I think Singularity have a good chance of taking this one. And right now, BTXL trying to get control.
They're running in. They want Scoot. That's going to be the Righteous Glory pop. Scoot's going to get absolutely liquefied. But the Baron's getting started up by Singularity. They don't have a jungler, remember, so this could be a point of contention.
Double AD carry, though.
For them, but double AD carry. As Varro looks to join in. Deadly's just going to start up the Dragon, make sure they deny Soul. The Squire goes down, and Baron is being melted by Singularity. 28 minutes on the clock. They get Baron Nashor. This time, there is no hat-trick package to mop that fight up. BTXL will take a consolation prize, the second Drake for themselves, and a tower in the mid lane. It's on Singularity to use this Baron effectively.
And this is the thing we always highlight around that third dragon. This is why when a team is about to get third dragon, it's always contested, because from that point on, you cannot give up a dragon. And you see a situation where BTXL are like, we have to deny the soul. They invest all their pressure down to that side of the map. And it means that Singularity can go, cool, well, we'll just take Baron. And the thing is, the Baron has the instant reward. You get a ton of gold, you get the buff to use, whereas one dragon for BTXL means nothing unless they can get the soul later. So really nice play there from Singularity to sort of call them out on their priority towards the dragon. They get the Baron themselves, and it's just looking pretty good. I mean, coming into this, the highest percentage margin we had in the desk was 70-30 favored for XL. And we're seeing a Singularity with a gold lead. They have a Vladimir who going into the late game will be huge. The Ashe as well is going to outscale the Zaya. And of course, there is the Corki on the other side. But Singularity looking really good this game. Even if they do lose this one, this has definitely been the best game for Singularity so far this split.
Yeah, but they do have that gold lead. They have the Baron. Hawkshot will spot out a couple of members who are setting up a play. Hatrix has that package. Will he get the opportunity to use it? Sendo off in the bot lane with teleport available. He's actually just going to drop the package to cut through the wave.
Hey, you know what I just saw? Flaxish has a Gathering Storm. So later this goes, the better it gets for this Vladimir.
That is actually very, very rough.
I think it's 48.
Thank you.
Yeah, 48
Observer's
AP.
actually been lovely here, showing us the gains currently.
48 AP right now from Gathering Storm. So the game does extend further out. This means he's going to get more and more advantages from that.
Oh, got the Death Cap, got the Zhonya's, got the Void Staff on that base as well.
That's actually really, even more so recently. Void Staff obviously was sometimes a situational item, but in the current meta where Death Dance is such a high priority, I mean, you have your tanks like Sendo and Taxa, but Hatrix and Deadly will both be getting some form of magic resist. So it is actually a massive spike in this situation.
It's actually massive into Taxa because it's almost true damage at this point. He has one magic resist item, and it's not even a full item. It's
I don't think you don't need it into Taxa. He's just cannon fodder.
Taxa is actually just butter right now. To Flaxish. All right, well, it looks like XL, even with the fact that Baron went over to Singularity and not really giving up too much here, Flaxish will reveal himself.
I thought he was fishing for something there, but Deadly
has to be careful. Let's use the Feather Storm as Varro just goes in. Arrow goes wide, and that's actually two ultimates out from Singularity, but Flaxish still very much alive. Featherstorm used there by Deadly. He does have that cleanse available, but that's pretty big for him to burn that Featherstorm for free.
Just a misposition there completely in that situation, stepping up way too far and not respecting the enemy team's chance to punish. Now, you can see that BTXL really have the map control right now. They're applying pressure on his bot side jungle, and although there was some fishing from Singularity, they weren't able to find anything. They have to respect the engaged potential on the front line from BTXL. It's a bit more consistent with the Volley Bear and the Righteous Glory and the Mal fight. The Singularity just happy to play back. They're happy to scale up. They're confident in their Ashe. They're confident in their Vladimir. The pressure doesn't really feel like it's on them. And Dragon is up in a minute 20. And once again, this would be sold for Singularity. And it's just another Dragon for BTXL. So that's where the pressure really gets applied. However, obviously Baron has a longer spawn timer. So since we saw them taking it around the same time, it's still another minute for that Baron.
Before Baron or Dragon comes up, I actually would love to take a little look at the individual golds, because there's almost a Flame Horizon for Hatrix in the mid lane, but Flaxish, on the other hand, is almost Flame Horizon Sendo. So there's a lot of gold being spread around. You can see it's a 2,000 gold lead over to Hatrix and a 2,000 gold lead over to Flaxish right now. AD carries are pretty close to grand between them. Deadly hasn't had particularly the strongest performance in this game. It's been pretty heavily held back.
Yeah, and I will say that obviously a Malphite tends to function better without gold, but the kills in Varel's pocket are going to be a massive value. And as the game goes on, even though Lucian's not the best scaling AD carry, he still becomes very relevant.
Taxa, he's been arrowed, he's been cut through. He has to flash away as the culling actually is used onto the minions. Taxa holds his life and he holds his R. But XL, they're the ones who are kind of cut off here. They're in the wrong position. Teleport's getting used by Hatrix, and he's actually looking to push up into the top lane here. It looks like XL are actually just going to try and pressure and push an advantage. They've got a couple of minions to work with, and they may just be able to chip away at this turret a little bit here. They take this down fairly quickly, because remember, they also have double AD carry. This tower's very, very low. That's going to be them jumping in for them as they get a shutdown picked up onto the ADC. Sorry, onto Hatrix, not the ADC. Kind of an ADC.
And they just pulled the bluff, and we saw before XL were the ones prioritizing the dragon. This time it's Singularity, and they're looking to punish.
Flaxish is dead. We need to look at this base. They go on to Only. Only's just going to get melted through. Hatrix finds the kill without Flaxish. Singularity are pretty exposed. The culling goes down, and Sendo's going to be the one to tank it. They do use the shield. They have no Ash Arrow available yet. The Dragon's Soul was picked up for Singularity.
Yeah, the important thing is they got the minions. They didn't lose any Nexus towers. Yes, it was close there for BTXL. They were really trying to find an avenue in. Well, Scoot got to be a little bit careful there.
Yeah, Scoot actually has to flash away from the XL members, but he is able to get out. This thing on the run.
I mean, ultimately a good play from BTXL. And as I was talking about, the Dragon bluff before was what Singularity used to get the Baron. This time, BTXL used it to get that top lane inhibitor. They do lose the Dragon Soul, but they're going to be able to pick up this Baron for free. So instead of committing heavily to something that, in essence, the Dragon doesn't give them any value, it just denies the enemy team, they opt to take the Baron for themselves. It gives them a bit more power. We see them constantly pushing up, trying to apply pressure to Singularity, and now they're going to be able to do so more with that Baron buff. It's getting pretty late in the game. 35 minutes and a lot of item breakpoints being carried through. You can see Hatrix nearly full build, just looking for that rapid fire cannon, has the Infinity Edge in pocket. It's really Deadly who's fallen far behind, who's picked up that Infinity Edge but not quite finished the Death Dance.
All right, well, Hatrix has that package. Death Dance onto Deadly right now. So you just reset and pick that up. Hatrix got his Death Dance, got his Infinity Edge, got his Zeal. Gold lead once again on your screens. Singularity
just
still
look
ahead,
at that.
but it is actually, sorry, XL now ahead, but what a turnaround. Just a very heads-up play for BTXL to pull this back. And when we're talking to Ghoulbox, this is one of the things he kind of predicted was Singularity getting ahead and then just throwing it in the late game.
That's actually what I said before the
Oh,
game.
you said that?
Yeah, based on the day.
Normally Ghoulbox is the one who's right on these things.
We see Singularity winning, and then they just throw it away at the end. But something to factor in is, although the gold is in favor of BTXL, the Mountain Shield is on the side of Singularity. Now, I do feel like out of all the dragons, Mountain scales the worst into the later stages. And the reason being is that the later the game goes, the more relevant damage is. And you can see that very quickly, even Stendo can... Oh, Engage coming in.
Yeah, Stendo has been caught out, culling on. Massive charm! Welcome to the bounce house, Singularity, as they are just cut through. XL just walk away with a team fight. Flaxish is forced to flash away, but Hatrix chases him down. Flaxish will fall, and Vrao is the only one who stands. What a wombo combo by BTXL. Hatrix finds the triple kill. Stendo just bolts towards Vrao and sends him back to the fountain. This should just be the game for the side of XL. Vrao forced to run away, and Deadly will secure the win. XL 4-1 in the scoreboard.
And it happened. There it was. Singularity felt like they had that game, and then they throw it away all at once, but it was a huge engage there from BTXL. Absolutely massive, and I can't wait to see the replay on that one, because it was just beautiful from Kasing. The follow-up was there from Sendo as well, and they just demolished them. That was a 35+ minute game over in a couple of seconds in a team fight, and I think it kind of shows the veterancy of this XL roster. But also we have to look back at the game. Singularity showing a lot of promise in that game. Yes, they still struggled to find the win here, but it was definitely a better game overall from them. And XL, I don't think they should be happy, considering a lot of people look at this roster as being one of the best in the league. you can't be happy with a result like that where it comes down to the wire. Because I think if Singularity had played it with a little bit better, or if this was a better team, XL lose that.
There were some definite questions that got raised to me in that game, unfortunately, for XL, but they were able to turn it around. And for Singularity, that has got to be a heartbreaking loss. You were ahead, you were actually beating one of the favorites in the league, and then they just turn it on their head. Singularity, unfortunately, are going to go 0-4 now in the league. And for XL, that's 3-1 for them. So they are at the top of the standings.
What a win that would have been to get a point on the board as well.
Yeah, I know, right? Just a great turnaround. But unfortunately for them, that is the end of it. And they do lose that game. Now, guys, we are going to cut to a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to have the analyst desk to break that down and a little interview. So we'll see you after this break.
No matter what, we're gonna keep moving on. Burn this city down, we can take it on. And we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Yeah, we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Let's step forward into the night. Come out like wolves in the pale moonlight, and watch us take over the world, Rise up from under the ground. Let's get lost just to be found, so we can take over the world, No matter what, we're gonna keep moving on. Burn this city down, we can take it on. And we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Yeah, we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Dive into the deepest end. It's your choice if you wanna sink or swim. Tonight's the night to let yourself live. Tick tock tock, take all you can get. You only live once, so don't live with regret. 'Cause tonight's the night to let yourself live. No matter what, we're gonna keep moving on. Burn this city down, we can take it on. And we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Yeah, we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. No matter what, we're gonna keep moving on. Burn this city down, we can take it on. And we're gonna reach the top side of the moon. Yeah, we're gonna reach the top side of the moon.
Look, guys, I know I said 5%, but I'm more leaning towards Treble's estimations of the 70-30 there. That did not look that clean, to be completely honest with you. Where do we want to start? So, someone help me out here. Where are we starting with this game?
I mean, I think you need to start about kind of like the window where things started to go really sideways for Excel, and suddenly the fans, the viewers, and Excel were starting to sweat, which was when that Vladimir got really big. I think that there was a clear window where that 5% almost became like an 80%. That was like a level 17 Vladimir over a level 15 Malphite. All they needed to do was play the side lane, but somehow managed to find the miracle team fight to make it work. So I'm not sure how Excel pulled that rabbit out of a hat, but they managed to.
Yeah, they take the win in the end, but I want to give props to Singularity because we were talking about what could they do to actually come out on top of this game, and I feel like a lot of the early game, a lot of in the drafting phase, we actually saw them do what we wanted them to do. We got screwed on comfort, even Rao with a counter pick in the mid lane, and then actually just seeing takes it on a supportive style like Ashe. It worked wonders in the early game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to pull it all the way in the end.
Yeah, and I think it was down to some critical picks that happened, especially around key objectives like Dragon Souls as well as back-to-back Barons for both teams. This team fight in particular, like the thing is if Excel win that team fight but not inting in with that package, like your Corki is so strong at that point, and it would have been a completely different game, probably ended 10 minutes earlier for them. But some individual missteps there under pressure managed to sort it and fix it out, but this is a very messy game back and forth, and I think the gold graph really showcased how ping pong this was.
And I feel like, sure, we can praise Singularity for getting the counter picks. I mean, we talked about that being their strength, right? The most skirmish, the more individual, the 1v1 kind of brawly style. And it showed, right? Vrao showed up. He played so well. We had Flaxis in the top lane on the Vladimir. He shined as well, and he was 2 levels above. But at the end of the day, when you play that late game, your macro is what happens. These TPs coming in and then getting cancelled is what matters. The Vladimir getting popped instantly without being able to flash or Zhonya's is what matters. So at the end of the day, it is that last team fight that can lose you or win you the game, and Singularity show that they're not there yet. They do though show glimpses of hope.
It does at least say that one of the core strengths that you can take away from the Excel roster is that when you give them triggers to pull, that they're able to find it. Some teams do really struggle with kind of moving around their engaged pieces, whether that's on their support or on their top laner. In this case, for Excel, it was on both, and making sure that they were always there so that they could find those opportunities that when Singularity did mess up, the picks came through and the team fights were won.
I think something that we didn't mention, and maybe he went a little bit under the radar, I actually thought Kasting was hella smurf that game. I think Kasting had an incredible performance in the Rakan. It felt like with so many meaningful engages made there. I know you're ditching your head around there, Gulbug, but I genuinely thought Kasting was really good. I actually have the man who had the most fun game of his career ready to chat to me. Stendo, hi.
Hello. Glad to be here.
So, the first question is, how much fun did you have that game?
It's really fun to play Malphite against counterpick, and it's in Vladimir. You can't get low. Like, he has perma sustain, but it's alright. Really fun.
I expected that to be the answer. Guys, obviously that was a little bit tougher than I guess you were expecting. Why was that game hard? What kind of went wrong to sort of delay that game and make it a little bit harder for you in the end?
I mean, we know they went really early game on mid jungle, but we survived the early game really well, and we went into mid game with a lead, I think, like able to fight. But then in the key fights, we just either didn't get the setup right, or we just didn't pull the trigger how we wanted. So they got too many drakes, too many objectives, and in general we just fucked up our tempo a lot, if I want to say, like, if I can say it like that. So that's why the game lasted for that long. So we just were too slow on the trigger sometimes.
Yeah, I think obviously you guys sometimes do have this mid-game lull. I mean, we saw that a lot in the last split where you'd have these ridiculous backdoors because there's a bit of a mid-game lull, a couple of decisions that went wrong, and then suddenly either you or someone else on the team would actually just win the game with some ridiculous late-game decision-making. And I think actually, is that something that you see as a strength of your team? Just that ability to make very, very important snap decisions in the late game?
I mean, I think it's good to have players that when it gets to be like a really close game where we like fuck up macro or something, that we have players that have the ability to just find clutch plays or clutch macro plays to like end the game. like that's key to winning as well, like key to winning big tournaments. But I think that's not everything. Like we should be able to play the map correctly and just do the steps correctly, right? So yeah, we just have to work on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will get there. The reason you went undefeated in the previous split of the UKLC, you guys are obviously incredibly good, and expecting to see you at the top end of NLC. Sendo, thank you so much for joining me, mate. Good to talk to you. I'm sure we'll get to see you again soon.
Thanks to be here.
Just for any BBC viewers out there, we're very sorry for the I'm going to make Sendo wash his mouth out with soap, just so he can still hear me, by the way. So Sendo, you're going to go wash your mouth out with soap now. Guys, that was he just said sorry. That was today's games. Obviously, we've kind of gone through all of them here. I think the major upset in inverted commas was obviously that Nordavind game, but let's reflect back on some of the games today and talk about the results. I'm going to quickly double check the results. Yeah, I know. My brain's frazzled at this point in time. So we had the first game of the day where Fnatic Rising beat Dusty. It was not the easiest. We had the Monster Rugby Gaming game, which also was not particularly easy for what we would have considered the favorite team. And obviously then followed up with Nordavind versus Riddle, with Nordavind taking the win and XL finally beating out Singularity to end. There was definitely a lot of close affairs today, though, guys.
I feel like my biggest takeaway today and why there was a lot of close affairs or close upsets, however you want to use the language around it, was just the individual performance. Like we had a crazy Annie game, Vladimir almost hard carried that last game, a Misfortune was popping off. Like it's the coolest thing about the ERLs, and when you see these teams that your individual skill expression can be so high that you really can be the difference maker on this level and just have a superstar performance to get noticed.
Yeah, and the optimistic thing about it is that you see them trying to go for some high-level plays too. They are opting in for stuff that we see in the LEC. There we go. But the thing is, though, the skill level is not quite there yet, or the experience rather, because they are good players. As Frost said, most of the time, or at least today, we are looking at players that are just single-handedly winning it. And yeah, Sepix Annie really comes to mind in this one.
And I just want to say that these players, the dream it is to get up there, what you said, Goldborg, the LEC, the big leagues, right? And it doesn't matter if they do really well into this league. It doesn't matter if they single-handedly carry their team. It's EU Masters that's the big deal for them, right? It's EU Masters that they have to go to and show up and show what they really are made of. Not just them, their team as well, but them specifically as the individual talent that the teams up there are looking to pick up, are looking to put into their academy teams and potentially into their actual real teams.
One thing I'm a bit concerned of, though, mentioning EU Masters, is at first I thought it was really competitive with some of the teams beating out each other, so it was just really competitive all over the group. But I'm also starting to get a bit worried because some of the time I feel like you're not winning necessarily because you're doing something extremely good. You're losing because your opponent sometimes just makes a lot of mistakes. And to me, that's a bit worrisome because I'd like to see them gradually improve, which I think we have. But I'm missing that just straight top team or top teams that we can single-handedly say they are going to do well when we send them off into EU Masters.
I think if I was to reflect on that point, sometimes punishing mistakes is a mark of a good team. Sometimes the ability to recognize mistakes and take advantage of those scenarios is a hallmark of a team that is able to win. But obviously, what you're saying is that the ability to be the own creator of your success is sometimes also a really important part of being a top tier team. But I think we started to see that with some of the teams in this league.
Oh, agreed.
I also think it's just about development long term. You know, you're only in week 3, and while it is still summer, and this is one of the most important splits, especially as you're looking towards that grind towards EU Masters. You know, there's multiple weeks left. I think that there's been, even just talking to you guys behind the scenes, like clear developments from kind of like week 1 to week 3 as the teams start to kind of showcase their play style, showcase what they're comfortable. And sometimes you just have a bad night, and I think there were some bad nights tonight.
Yeah, there definitely were a few. Guys, let's have a look at the standings of today so we can sort of have a look at where these teams have ended up. At the top, you can see XL and Nordavind joint in Division A. Obviously, still got a few games left to play before we can round this out. Godsent will be playing tomorrow. Let's take a look at Division B then. That's a lie. No, that is not a lie. They are playing tomorrow. I thought they weren't. Having a look over to Division B, Tricked and Fnatic at the top of the table at 3-0 apiece. Barrage and M&M yet to find a win. And obviously then we have Munster and Dusty in the middle. Munster picking up their second win of the series, going 2-1.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about these teams, like going into these standings, right? I'm really looking forward to tomorrow to see the teams we're going to look at there, especially the match between Tricked and Fnatic. Today, I thought the Dusty was going to deliver the same height, but they fell off in the early game really quickly, and Fnatic just sat there. I really didn't see too much for them because they didn't have to do anything, right? But now we're looking into Mad Lad Tricked over here, who always pulls something out of a hat, both in draft, in-game. Let's throw Vase on that, a Seer top instead. And I just want to see that Fnatic's getting tested by a team like Tricked and see what they can offer us, not only what kind of talent and macro they're bringing out, but also just how entertaining that series is going to be, because I did feel like Dusty was a bit of a letdown today.
And I also want to bring your attention to upsets, because so far we've sent, okay, you know, Godsend is playing ends tomorrow. And so we have BTXL and Nordavin sitting at 3-1 apiece. But Godsend is right underneath them with 2-1. If no upsets happen, because ends is at the bottom of the table, so on paper, Godsend should be fine against them. They get 3-1. That means we have 3 teams in contention for first place in Group A. This is looking the most competitive it's ever looked. And even though we're coming here and we're seeing, you know, the UK teams being the 2 dominant teams, right? Being the academic teams of some of the LEC teams. And we're like, well, these will most likely be dominant, you know, with all the known names coming into the scene. But it seems like a lot of other teams have stepped up because of this.
Yeah, I like I said, I think one of the things that we have been seeing over the last few weeks is it's not just about the academy teams. There are lots of other teams that have been able to battle with them and go toe-to-toe, and we'll see how that pans out throughout the rest of the weeks. Now, tomorrow, just to be clear, we have Ents versus Godsend to kick things off. Then we're going to have Monster Rugby versus Dusty, Fnatic Rising versus Tricked. Both of them are undefeated currently in our league. And then we're going to have M&M versus Barrage. One of them will be guaranteed a win here, at least, you know, to get things started in the NLC. Now, thank you very much, guys, for joining me today. Trouble, Gulborg, and Frost. We will all be returning tomorrow, so I will see you then tomorrow, 6 p.m.
Watching the world go by under the moonlit sky. It's the feeling, yeah, it's the feeling. Sun-kissed and having fun, ocean to summer sun. It's the feeling.